Punch needle learning tutorial. The first is the triangle poking. Adjust the needle to low gear. Poke the needle into one of the corners. Start by poking around the edge of the triangle. Each needle is about 5 millimeters apart. The direction of the poking needle needs to be poked in the direction of the line. After the first round, start at the middle of the previous circle. Round and round and poke in. Each stitch should be poked as far as possible into the middle of the previous circle. It will be neater and look better. And you do it the same way, needle by needle, until the entire triangle is poked full. When the last stitch is poked, press and hold the thread part with your hand. Pull the line up a short section. Cut the thread with scissors. Use the poking needle to gently poke the excess thread in a few times. The triangle is poked, and then the square needle, also low grade. Squares are made like triangles, also needle from one corner. Poke the edge of the square first, go around and poke in, until the entire square is filled. Press and hold the thread position. Gently lift the needle, cut the wool. Use the poking needle to gently poke in a few times. The square is poked, and then there's this fuzzy square. First, we need to turn the frame to the back. Adjust the needle to C, same as before. Do the same thing with one of the needles, and along the edges of the square. Just poke it down one needle at a time from the second lap. Each needle is poked to the middle of the previous circle until the whole square is filled. Press and hold the thread position with your hand. Cut the thread with scissors. Turn to the back to see the effect. That's it. It's fluffy. Next, we poke the circle. Poke the needle to low gear. Place the needle on the edge of the circle. Poke the outside of the circle first. Oblique opening of the poking needle. You need to keep turning in the direction the line is going. After the first round, from the middle of the previous circle, poke in the same way in circles, until the entire circle is filled. Press and hold the thread position. Gently pull out the thread, cut with scissors. Use the poking needle to gently poke the thread in. The circle is ready. Next, poke this leaf and adjust the poke needle to C. You start with the needle at the end of the leaf. Poke the right half first. Use the needle to poke back and forth like this, until half the leaves are poked full. After half the leaves are poked full, poke the other leaf in the same way, until the other half is full. Press and hold the thread part with your hand. Gently pull the thread out and cut it. Then gently poke the thread in with the poke needle. Just one word. Next, poke the cross petal and adjust the poke needle to low gear. Stitch from the core part. First, poke the petals above. Poke back the flower core part. Poke the petal to the left again and back to the core. Subsequently, poke the lower petal and the right petal the same way. Press and hold the thread with your hand to pull the thread out. Poke the thread back. Cross petals are ready. Next, poking 6 small flowers and poking needles is the same as low grade. Also place the needle in the flower core part. Use the same method as the cross petal. Fill all 6 petals. Press and hold the thread. Pull the thread out and cut it. Hide the thread in. 6 small flowers are ready. Next, poke this 5-petal flower and adjust the poking needle to be needle in the flower heart part, like this. Jab back and forth to the right of one of the sides, and poke it back and forth along the side, and poke it back and forth on the left. And that's a petal. It is important to note that the left and right sides are poked slightly shorter than the middle one. Then poke the remaining 4 petals in the same manner. 5 petals of flowers will be poked. Next, poke the rose and adjust the poke needle to a gear. 3 points within the drawn circle, one of the points. The next needle is then poked at the second and second, the location of 3 points. The fourth pin is poked in the middle of the first and second points. Then use the same method. They are all poked in the middle of the 2 stitches in the upper circle. The pattern of forming a poke triangle. Use this pattern to poke it around and around until the whole circle is filled. After all the circles are filled, cut the thread, pick the outermost wire again. Just smoke a rose. Then poke this diagonal needle method. Jab back and forth between the lines like this. The direction of the needle needs to be adjusted with the direction of the thread. Just keep poking back and forth like this. And here's the cross poke. You start with one side. First poke parallel to the side. Poke it diagonally like this to the other side. The oblique opening of the poking needle needs to be in the direction of the line. After poking to the top, poke down diagonally with the same pattern. Poke to the beginning, pull the line out, poke the thread back. Do you know the cross-stitch method? Then poke the shape of the ear of wheat. Adjust the needle to C. Place the needle in the middle. Jab back and forth, left and right like this. Repeat this poke. The oblique port of the poke needle is in the direction of the line. Every stitch has to be poked to the end, in this way. The shape of the ears of wheat is poked out. Now, let's poke the branch. Adjust the needle to C. Needle from the end of the branch. Poke it up first. Then poke it back and forth to the left. And poke it back and forth to the right. So the 2 leaves are poked in the same way. First poke the middle branch part. Poke the branches and leaves on both sides again. And then poke a leaf up, so just one branch will poke it. And finally, the bough. You start with a piece of wool. Wrap 8 circles on 3 fingers. Remove the loop, pinch the middle part. Fix it in a pre-drawn grid, poke the needle, and drop the needle from the middle. And then onto the loop. Poke the fixed wool down. Then poke for stitches back and forth in the same way. Then press and hold the thread to cut off the wool. Poke the excess thread back with the poke needle. The bow is ready. Have you learned all these stitches?